Welcome to the Hidden Potential Podcast. I'm your host, Omar Hargrove. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about my thoughts on the recent Olympic ceremony. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know that this is a leadership podcast. And so we're not going to be diving in as much as my critical thoughts on this or that. What we're really going to be focusing on is how we should analyze situations like this to gauge what our responses ought to be as leaders. Because what we say matters, and how we respond to different things like this matters to the people that we are influencing. So every week we come out with a new episode to be able to help you tap into your hidden potential. We do this by giving you practical and mental tools to be able to help you within your organization and your leadership. So let's go ahead and get started with this simple thought that about today, what we're really going to be talking about is another topic which many people, and especially Christians, are being divided about. My heart in this is for us to find unity, and for most of all, for us to be able to protect ourselves from division. What we talk about today, again, is not as much about the controversy itself, but how we as leaders ought to respond to these kinds of events in a healthy way, because this will not be the last. There will be more and more. And we're going to talk about three main things. And the first thing that I want us to talk about is, for me, what I've seen within each outrage that comes up is that there's typically four types of people through these kinds of controversies. And it's been really interesting to see, because there's the curious, those who are the people who know about it, and they're really curious of the truth of it all. What's really going on? What does this all mean? And it's this idea of wanting to know the truth. And they haven't necessarily made up a strong opinion this way or that way, but they want to know the truth. Then there's the cunning. The cunning are the people who are ready to defend or justify the event that is causing the outrage. So in this case, it would be the people that are defending the ceremony of the Olympics. And and I'm gonna just be as transparent as I can. And again, it's not my intention to step on any toes or to sway you even into one way or the other. But the what I would call the cunning people in this scenario, those defending the ceremony as being, well, this is it's not that they were mimicking the Last Supper. It was really them going all the way back to giving homage to Greek lineage and Greek origins and etc. And I can see all that. At the end of the day, though, that's gaslighting. that's like showing me a picture of a duckbill and asking me what kind of animal is this, and me saying a duck, and then flipping the table and saying, how could you say that? It's a platypus. What are you talking about? How could you ever think it's a duck? And that is really the response that we're talking about, to where it's not like people are making this event and orchestrating it, and no one's looking around and saying like, hey, isn't this like the Last Supper? I mean, there's even people who were different performers in the event that tweeted out and put a social media post saying the next queer Last Supper or whatever. And so even the participants of the show were making references to it being the Last Supper. The way that the people were strategically placed at this table were very mimicked the Last Supper, to where the vast majority of people who saw that thought of the Last Supper. And so you can't, again, it's not just this scenario, it's almost every single scenario, to where there's this big divide over, to where there's this cunning defense to justify what is happening. We saw it, the same kind of thing with every political show and sham that we've seen in recent history on both Democrats and Republicans' side. There's the cunning, to where something outrageous happens and there's a group of people who defend it in this gaslighting, unreasonable way, to where if you don't agree with them, you're an idiot. How could you be so ignorant? You don't know about this? Oh my gosh. So statistics show this. And again, I'm talking about from both sides, the cunning is there. The gaslighting is there. Now, the third type of person is the critical. And that is the person that's ready to attack and project, and guess what? Also gaslight the scenario to where they, as an example for this, of getting every little piece of the Olympics and saying, see, they're clearly trying to attack Christianity. See, don't you see it right there? I mean, and you could go as deep as like the way that people try to orchestrate the circles, meaning this or that, the horse going across the water is a horse of revelation. It's like this constant trying to accuse and take a scenario and gaslight it to fit your agenda and your ideology. And there's plenty of things within the Olympic ceremony and different parts that people have been accusing that I don't think have anything to do with anything. It was just part of their performance. But on almost every issue, there's the cunning, the critical, and it's these people that are making the most noise. And there's times where one side might be a little more right than the other. And then the next issue, it's totally opposite. And the cunning people are more right than the critical people. But for us to really just take a step back and realize, do you not see that the people fighting in the way that they are both, it's hilarious because they'll both gaslight each other and then accuse the other person of gaslighting. You can't say that. That's gaslighting. Even just saying that is gaslighting. It's this constant fight, and they force us. And this is the key takeaway, is that both sides try to force other people against themselves. And that leaves us to the last person, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, and that is the confused. So we talked about the curious, the cunning, the critical, and the confused. These are the people who just don't even really know what's going on. They're busy living life, and they just don't necessarily care, like, oh, what's going on? Huh. And they just aren't really that interested in all of the debacle. And I think that a vast majority of people are probably in that confused place to where they're just not interested in all the they have enough issues to worry about in their own lives, or they're just enjoying their life, and it's not something that's consuming their day. But for the cunning and the critical, we cannot move on from this place until this is settled. Until we need to mass up an army. We need to mass up a mob of people to come and destroy the other people who disagree with us. And we need to understand that is what's happening at the end of the day. And it is divisive. Consider when in history have we been so critical and cunning and divisive of one another to where we talk such hype and game about our intellect and how we just know everything. And at the end of the day, we need to take a step back and remember, it's honorable to desire to know truth. And it's great when you feel like you got an inside scoop. But for us to put blankets over knowing exactly what's what, again, on both sides, then we need to really take a realization and understand, am I actually believing in this thing? Do I really feel this emotional about this? Or is this just puffing up my ego? Is this just making me feel like I have a temporary purpose? And that's what I think really is happening at the end of it. Because as leaders, I think that very often as leaders, we can either be in that curious or confused spot to where maybe you're just like trying to do ministry and just like, why is this a big deal? I don't get it. Or you're curious and thinking like, that's really interesting. I wonder what the purpose of that is. But if you actually care about the people that you're leading, then you need to be weary of being cunning or critical. And I've been seeing a lot of different ministry leaders online that fall into one of those groups, the cunning or the critical. And again, it's not one, both in today's world, especially with the election coming up in the next 100 days, there's going to be it's going to really segregate into two camps of people, and that is Republicans versus Democrats for the next 100 days. And we as leaders ought to strive to not fall into the cunning or critical space, but that we should be guides for our people who are curious and information sources for those who are confused, and when there's meaningful things to care about. But if we just try to join one side or the other, then we're only going to be feeding that division. We're going to be cutting off the other people. And there's been plenty of times throughout the last several years in which it seems like there's this agency of division orchestrating this great divide between people in our world, that where there's people that I once respected that were so extreme on one side to where they make these blanket statements where if you don't agree with me, then you suck. And it makes me lose respect for them, even though I wasn't even on that side or this side. And when you try to force people, when you try to control people to believe what you believe, to think what you think, without giving any calm reasonability or conversation to it, it's just this blanket, like it's my way or the highway, you will just divide. And the worst thing about it is that you will project division into others. And I don't think that's healthy as a leader to do. Today's episode is brought to you by my new book, Feed My Sheep, a 90-day devotional, is out now. You can order it either on my website, homerhargrove.com, or you can order it on Amazon. And if you do, please leave a rating and review letting me know what you think about the book. It really would mean a lot to me, and it really helps support this channel. Again, that is Feed My Sheep. That being said, let's get back to today's episode. So now let's talk about the heart of the issue, and that is choosing carefully what hill you're willing to die on. Is this really something that you want to kill others over? It makes me think about, this is just another scenario, but think about how long ago it was to where the big divide was whether or not you had to wear a mask or not. And again, it's not necessarily about me having an opinion this way or that way, but there's, I would see instances to where a person wearing a mask literally would attack somebody else for not wearing a mask. I'm thinking, that's insane. Like you want to die on that hill? Like you believe in this so strongly that you're attacking someone else? And then I would look at another scenario where a person would refuse to wear a mask and was literally arrested for not adhering to the rules of that building or that school or whatever, to where they're escorted out and they're arrested. And again, I'm not trying to make a statement either way, but if I were to take a step back and just consider, is this a hill that I'm willing to die on? That I want to make this big scene and get arrested, and there's like these fights that break out. And again, I know that when it comes to the cunning and the critical, that we could look back and say, well, if no one stands up, then no one's going to get done. Hey, again, all I'm projecting is that if that is a hill you're going to die on, then so be it. If you see it as this morally obligating thing that you need to stand up for X, Y, or Z for this moment, God bless you. But I find that many times there are issues that are trivial, and where the fuel to the fire, where it's really coming from, is media and from government entities that are inspiring us with this exponential fear that to where if we don't kill the other person, our lives are going to be ruined. The world is going to blow up. And for us to just really ask ourselves, is this really what I believe in? Or is this actually me trying to find a purpose, but I kind of feel aimless about it? Maybe I don't feel inspired, and I'm clinging to inspiration in these temporary issues that to feel like I have a purpose. Or am I trying to validate myself? Am I trying to prove myself? Maybe it's even like this when I see people arguing on social media. It almost seems like this cry for validation, that they want people to respect them. They want people to admire them or think of them in a certain way, or think that they're right, or think that they're smart. And all I'm saying is that, is this a hill that you need to die on, or is it something deep within yourself? Sometimes we end up fighting a war by accident just because our pride didn't let us leave. I see this over and over within ministry, within organizations and jobs, to where even on a smaller scale, like not talking about the whole world, not talking about the Olympics, but talking about even just like a smaller scale, to where an employee didn't respect to take their hat off when they came in. They were having a bad day and they refused to take their hat off when they came into work. Something like that, to where a manager ends up dying on this hill of policy and ends up orchestrating like this crazy termination or severe punishment, not because they necessarily care so much about the hat or this employee, but because their pride won't let them leave that battle and they want to win. They're going to show these employees that they're the boss. And you got to ask yourself, is that actually good, healthy leadership, or is that just someone trying to prove that they should be respected? Y'all dig what I'm saying? I hope this makes sense. And the final thing that I want us to consider is that whatever message that you feel in your heart that you need to project, you must remember that it's not as much as what you say, but how you say it. If you just go online and say, I'm right and anyone that disagrees with me is an idiot, I don't think you're going to win that many people with your message. The only people that are going to cheer that on are the people that already agree with you. So are you really making a difference like that? Or are you just puffing up your ego? Are you just feeding your validation? And I think that you just have to ask yourself, could there be a better way to say what you want to say that comes across more reasonably? You feel me? Could you say it in a way that is more reasonable? Could you have conversation about it? And maybe there'll always be people who, on whatever side that will disagree with you and refuse conversation. But could you not make a difference by being reasonable and saying something in an articulate way that actually makes people think and feel curious and think, oh, maybe I should reconsider what I think about this? Is there any possible way that there's another method or maybe even another audience that would cause your message to be better received? Maybe you shouldn't be fighting with the people who disagree with you so strongly. Maybe you should try to reach people who are the curious or the confused instead of just spending all your energy fighting with either the cunning or the critical. Again, the heart of this message is for us as leaders to find reasonable rationality when it comes to these controversies and these things to be outraged over. And I do not think that it is fair for a person to be offended at something and feel legitimate about it, and another side say, how dare you? You're so stupid for being offended by it. And at the same time, I don't think it's fair for someone who is offended to force others to feel offended too. How could you not be offended? What kind of person are you? It's just, we can't control how other people feel. The way you feel can be validated, and it's okay to be offended, but we have to find a middle ground. We have to stop looking at the next thing to fight over, because at the end of the day, this division is terrible for people. This division is terrible for our families. And consider that most of the people that are the loudest about even this specific scenario with like the Olympics aren't even people who watch the Olympics. They saw this one scene and they're going crazy over it, whether it's defending it or attacking it. And now we're forced to fight with one another over a sporting competition that most of us don't even watch. Do you see how insane that is? We could go down the line with every other outrage that we're allowing people and organizations and governments to inspire us to hate one another, when at the end of the day, if they had to choose between you and a bag of money going off of the cliff, you would be falling down fast. They do not care about you, but the person who would most likely save you are the people just like you that you're arguing with and fighting with. We need to take a step back and realize the bigger picture here. And we should start seeing each other with humanity and stop looking for the next thing to kill one another over. All that being said, let's end with 3 takeaways. Number 1, have an honest self-evaluation and consider which type of person you find yourself as. The 4 that we talked about today. And ask yourself, why are you that way? Are you the curious, the critical, hold on, let me check real quick. Are you the curious, the cunning, the critical, or the confused? And ask yourself, why am I this way? Why do I not care about it? Why do I care about it? Why do I want to know the truth about this? What interests it about me? Why do I feel like I need to defend this? Ask yourself why, so that you can better understand the emotions you're feeling. Number 2, consider what principles you actually want to stand for and stick to them. Don't allow yourself to chase the next mob of outrage so that you're not just another product of division? And number 3, what message do you want to share with others? And how can you share it in a way that it is easier for people to understand and receive? I hope that this message today was interesting for you. I hope that it made a difference in your leadership. And I hope that inspired you to be a uniting catalyst within your organization, within your level of influence. Could you do me a favor? Could you leave a rating and review for this podcast? It really helped me out, help others be able to see this show in their feed. Until next time, have a great life. Well, there you have it. I hope that this episode was meaningful and edifying for your leadership and your growth within your ministry and organization. Could you do me a favor? Could you leave a rating and review for this podcast? It really helped me out and help others be able to see this show in their feed. You can also visit homerhargrove.com to be able to learn more, connect, or become one of our supporters. Until next time, have a great life.